Wake up, America, wake up. In recent years, the United States has faced numerous challenges that threaten the very fabric of our society. From the erosion of trust in our institutions to the rise of political polarization and social unrest, it is clear that we are at a critical juncture in our nation's history. It is time for Americans to wake up and take action to address the pressing issues that confront us. We can no longer afford to sit idly by as our country is torn apart by division, corruption, and the misuse of power. One of the most pressing issues facing our nation today is the waste, fraud, and abuse that plague our federal government. From the Department of Defense to Medicare and Medicaid, billions of taxpayer dollars are being squandered each year due to mismanagement, lack of oversight, and outright corruption. The Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, has been working tirelessly to investigate and address these issues, but their efforts have been met with resistance from those who benefit from the status quo. It is time for Americans to wake up and demand accountability from our elected officials and government agencies. But the problems facing our nation go beyond just government waste and corruption. We are also facing a crisis of values. As our society becomes increasingly divided along political, social, and cultural lines, we must wake up and recognize that our strength lies in our unity, not our division. It is time for Americans to come together and engage in a national dialogue about the issues that matter most to us. We must be willing to listen to one another, to find common ground, and to work together to build a better future for ourselves and generations to come. Wake up, America, wake up is asking Americans to take action. The time for action is now. We cannot afford to wait any longer to address the challenges that confront us. By working together and demanding accountability from our leaders, we can build a stronger, more united, more prosperous nation for all. The Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, is a federal agency tasked with investigating and addressing waste, fraud, abuse within other government departments. Its mission is to promote transparency, accountability, and fiscal responsibility in the use of taxpayer dollars. By conducting thorough investigations and audits, DOGE aims to identify and root out corruption, inefficiency, and mismanagement across federal agencies. Through its work, DOGE seeks to ensure that government programs are operating effectively and efficiently, and that taxpayer funds are being used responsibly and in the best interest of the American people. DOGE is a federal agency established under the Trump administration. Its mission is to promote transparency, accountability, and fiscal responsibility in the use of taxpayer dollars. DOGE serves the Trump administration by aligning with its priorities and values, such as 1. Reducing government waste. The Trump administration has emphasized the importance of cutting wasteful spending and making government more efficient. DOGE supports this goal by identifying and addressing instances of waste, fraud, and abuse across federal agencies. 2. Promoting transparency and accountability. By conducting thorough investigations and audits, DOGE helps to ensure that government agencies are transparent and accountable in their use of taxpayer dollars, which is a key priority for the Trump administration. 3. Advancing conservative policies. DOGE's findings and recommendations often align with conservative policy priorities, such as reducing the size and scope of government, cutting regulations, and promoting free market principles. 4. Supporting campaign promises. President Trump campaigned on a promise to drain the swamp in Washington, D.C., and DOGE's work helps to advance this goal by rooting out corruption and inefficiency in the federal government. 5. Providing evidence for policy decisions. DOGE's investigations and reports can provide valuable evidence to support policy decisions made by the Trump administration, such as budget cuts or agency restructuring. In summary, the Department of Government Efficiency serves the Trump administration by promoting its priorities and values, such as reducing government waste, increasing transparency and accountability, advancing conservative policies, supporting campaign promises, and providing evidence for policy decisions. Supporters of DOGE argue that its work is essential for promoting fiscal responsibility and ensuring that taxpayer dollars are used effectively and efficiently. Critics, however, raise concerns about the potential for political motivations behind DOGE's investigations and the possibility of government overreach. As the debate continues, it is clear that DOGE's findings have brought attention to important issues related to waste, fraud, and abuse within the federal government. The question now is how policymakers will respond to these findings and what steps will be taken to address problems identified in the report.
About Elon Musk and Trump, and we don't know what all they have on us.
The uproar over the Department of Government Efficiency DOGE and its leadership headed by Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy can be attributed to several factors depending on one's political perspective. Some argue that DOGE is trampling on Americans' rights by limiting access to information about how their tax dollars are spent, while others believe there may be darker issues at play. Here are a few reasons why the Democratic Party might be targeting DOGE and its leadership for impeachment. 1. Political motivations. Critics argue that the impeachment efforts are potentially politically motivated, with Democrats seeking to undermine the Trump administration and its appointees, including Musk and Ramaswamy. 2. Concerns about transparency. Some Democrats believe that DOGE, under the leadership of Musk and Ramaswamy, may be limiting transparency and access to information about government spending, which could be seen as infringing on America's rights to know how their tax dollars are being used. 3. Conflict of interest. There have been allegations of potential conflicts of interest involving Musk and Ramaswamy, and some suggesting that their business interests could influence their decision-making at DOGE. 4. Disagreements over priorities. Democrats might argue that DOGE, under the leadership of Musk and Ramaswamy, is focusing too heavily on waste, fraud, and abuse while neglecting other important issues, such as ensuring that government programs effectively serve the public good. 5. Resistance to change. Some critics may be opposed to the changes and reforms that DOGE, led by Musk and Ramaswamy, is seeking to implement in the federal government, preferring to maintain the status quo. Ultimately, the reasons for the uproar and impeachment efforts against DOGE and its leadership are likely a combination of political, ideological, and personal factors. The validity of these concerns depends on one's perspectives and priorities. The Department of Government Efficiency has investigated numerous federal agencies and discovered instances of waste, fraud, and abuse. Some examples include the Department of Defense. The DoD has been scrutinized for wasting billions of dollars on unnecessary programs, such as the F-35 fighter jet, which has faced cost overruns and performance issues. The investigation also found the total dollar amount of improper payments made by the DoD over the past 10 years was approximately $1.2 trillion. This figure includes overpayments to contractors, cost overruns on major acquisition programs, and payments made for unauthorized or unnecessary purposes. The report also found that the majority of these improper payments were concentrated in few key areas, including the DoD's procurement process, contract management, and financial reporting systems. The Department of Education. According to the report, the total dollar amount of improper payments made by the Department of Education over the past 10 years was approximately $175.2 billion. This figure includes overpayments to schools and universities, as well as payments made to ineligible students or for unauthorized purposes. The report also found that the majority of these improper payments were concentrated in a few key areas, including the department's student loan programs and grant-making processes. The Environmental Protection Agency. As part of this investigation, DOGE examined the dollar amount of improper payments made by the EPA over the past decade. According to the report, the total amount of improper payments made by the EPA over the past 10 years was approximately $1.4 billion. This figure includes overpayment to contractors and grantees, as well as payments made for unauthorized or unnecessary purposes. The report also found that the majority of these improper payments were concentrated in a few key areas, including the EPA's grant-making processes and enforcement activities. The Department of Health and Human Services. HHS has been criticized for its management of the Affordable Care Act, with issues like the botched rollout of the healthcare.gov website and improper payments to insurance companies. In addition, under DOGE's watchful eye, HHS canceled 62 contracts worth $182 million in administrative expenses. This included terminating $168,000 in contracts for an exhibition dedicated to Anthony Fauci at the NIH Museum. Furthermore, Medicaid and Medicare over the past 10 years were approximately $1.5 trillion. This figure includes overpayments and healthcare providers, payments made for unauthorized or unnecessary services, and payments made to ineligible beneficiaries. The Department of Housing and Urban Development. HUD, or HUD for short, has faced scrutiny for mismanaging public housing funds, leading to poor living conditions and financial irregularities. According to the report, the total dollar amount of improper payments made by HUD over the past 10 years was approximately $10.5 billion. This figure includes overpayment to contractors and grantees, as well as payments made for unauthorized and unnecessary purposes. The Department of Veteran Affairs. The VA has been under fire for its inefficiency in providing health care to veterans, including long wait times for appointments and mismanagement of funds. The investigation also found evidence of fraud within the VA's healthcare system, with some employees falsifying records and engaging in other deceptive practices to conceal long wait times or other deficiencies in care. In some cases, the report found that veterans had suffered serious harm or even died as a result of these delays and substandard care. According to the report, the total dollar amount of improper payments made by the VA over the past 10 years was approximately $11.2 billion. This figure includes overpayments to contractors and vendors, as well as payments made for unauthorized or unnecessary purposes. The United States Social Security Administration. According to the report, the total dollar amount of improper payments made by the SSA over the past 10 years was approximately $137.7 billion. This figure includes overpayments to beneficiaries, as well as payments made to deceased individuals or those no longer eligible for benefits. The report also found that the majority of these improper payments were concentrated in a few key areas, including SSA's retirement, survivors, and disability insurance programs. United States Agency for International Development, USAID. As part of this investigation, DOGE examined the dollar amount of improper payments made by USAID over the past decade. According to the report, the total dollar amount of improper payments made by USAID over the past 10 years was approximately $4.7 billion. This figure includes overpayment to contractors and grantees, as well as payments made for unauthorized or unnecessary purposes. Humanitarian assistance programs. The report found instances where USAID funds were used to purchase substandard or unnecessary goods or services, or where funds were diverted for personal gain or other unauthorized purposes. Global health initiatives. The report identified instances of fraud and abuse in USAID's global health programs, including cases where grantees or contractors submitted false claims or inflated invoices for medical supplies, equipment, or services. Economic development programs. The report found examples of improper payments in USAID's economic development programs, including cases where funds were used to support projects that were not viable or sustainable, or where funds were diverted for personal gain or other unauthorized purposes. Disaster relief efforts. The report identified instances of waste and abuse in USAID's disaster relief efforts, including cases where funds were not properly accounted for or tracked. Governance and democracy programs. The report found examples of improper payments in USAID's governance and democracy programs, including where funds were used to support political parties or candidates in foreign countries, in violation of U.S. law and policy. USAID has been a contentious topic for many Americans, and some argue that it should be shut down. Here are a few reasons why. 1. Financial burden. Critics argue that the U.S. is already facing a massive national debt and cannot afford to keep borrowing money to send abroad. They believe that this money could be better spent addressing domestic issues. 2. Inefficiency and corruption. There have been concerns about the efficiency and effectiveness of USAID programs, with allegations of corruption and mismanagement of funds. Some argue that the money doesn't always reach the intended recipients and ends up lining the pockets of corrupt officials or NGOs. 3. Lack of oversight. Critics claim that there is insufficient oversight and accountability regarding how USAID funds are spent, leading to waste and abuse. 4. Interference in foreign nations. Some people believe that USAID often interferes in the internal affairs of other countries, promoting a globalist agenda that may not align with American interests or values. 5. Encouraging dependency. There's an argument that foreign aid can create a cycle of dependency, hindering the development of self-sufficient economies in recipient countries. 6. Questionable alliances. USAID has been known to fund organizations that some consider to be anti-American or anti-Christian, leading to concerns about the agency's priorities and values. Those who advocate for the shutdown of USAID believe that it's a financial burden, susceptible to corruption and mismanagement, lacks proper oversight, interferes in foreign nations, encourages dependency, and funds questionable organizations. Folks, on a personal note, I think it's very important that we, as a nation, as a people of the United States, that we do not get complacent with the investigations that DOGE is conducting and their findings. We need to realize that the government has been lying to us, and those politicians that are out there on the streets that are arguing against what DOGE is doing are the ones that stand the most to lose. No more waste, fraud, and abuse. No more. We, the people, have to stand up and say, no more. Your hard-earned tax dollars are being wasted. And I'm hoping that under the Trump administration, that these findings lead not just to awareness, but to prosecution, punishment, and that those players who were involved in this deception of wasting your hard-earned tax dollars, they pay for what they've done, that they be exposed. But we can't do it if we sit back and argue amongst ourselves about what DOGE is doing, that Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy have more to gain. I don't think so. I think we, the people, have a lot to gain with regards to curtailing the size of the government, and most of all, knowing through transparency and accountability how our tax dollars are being used. Because those tax dollars, if used within our country, can do many things. We have veterans that are homeless. I think those tax dollars can benefit them. And for those of you that are haters, that I have to hear comments about, on my page, on other page that I am a member of, no more Mr. Nice Guy. You're just a bunch of slapnuts trying to get a nut in my world. And that's really what it is. If you don't care about this country, if you don't care about how your tax dollars are being spent and wasted, that's fine. You're entitled to your opinion. But for the majority of the people that follow me, that are in the communities that I'm involved with, we're going to make them pay. So get out of our way. And FAFO, man. That's all I got to say. Till the next time that I see you guys on Wake Up America, Wake Up. Stay safe, stay informed, stay we the people. Good night.